to show that. But you see, it came out of my own personal life because I discovered quantum physics when I was only 13, 14 years old. And that is the age when you are looking, what does life mean? You know, what does my life mean? Why do I have a life? And I started to answer all these questions in terms of what quantum physics was teaching about the universe. So then it became natural after my education to start sharing this philosophy that I found within quantum physics with people interested in psychology and spirituality and management and so on. I don't think I'm a genius, but I really, really love science. And I spent all my teenage years in my bedroom building an electron accelerator and a cloud chamber and smashing atoms in my bedroom. This is what I did with my time. I think this has motivated all the great scientists. They don't mean by God just some old man in the sky. I think they mean the way of the universe, you know, the ultimate way that things happen, the ultimate framework. It's the kind of thing I always wanted to know. I mean, I think if you are curious about the life and your place in the universe, this kind of question occurs to you naturally. There is no end to the questions that we can ask. And I actually think that the essential definition of human beings is that we are creatures who ask questions. There is a famous rabbi in the West, Abraham Heschel, who said, "You will know God more if you are asking questions than if you think you know the answers." I wrote my most famous book, The Quantum Self, which is a new way of understanding us. And I got a phone call one morning from the dean of a business school in London. And he said, "Please come speak to my MBA students about your book." And I said to him, "You must be crazy. I don't know anything about business." And he said, "Trust me, just come and talk to your book about my students." And the students loved it, and the professor loved it. So he recommended me to Shell as someone who could talk about quantum physics to business leaders. And that was my first ever attempt to do that. So then I started thinking, you know, that most management ideas are inspired by Newtonian physics. Frederick Taylor's management, scientific management, most of the management you learn in business schools still today is very Newtonian. So then, of course, naturally I started to think, well, what if we thought about management in a quantum way? And I started giving lectures on this to Shell, and then other people heard about it, and pretty soon I had a career teaching quantum management. In the book, I have a chapter on 12 principles of quantum leadership, 12 things you can try to develop in order to turn yourself into a quantum thinker. And once you become a quantum thinker, you can build a quantum company. So the 12 principles are things like to develop self-awareness, to learn to live at the edge of chaos, to be spontaneous, to celebrate diversity and bring a lot of diversity into your company and use it, to be able to teach yourself to notice the box your thinking is in and then break down the walls of that box and be able to think differently, having a sense of compassion for other people, a sense of purpose, of being called to serve, to do something, so you develop the right kind of values. Learning to celebrate mistakes and bad things and risk, because these teach you something. These give you new opportunities. The Chinese seem to understand it much more naturally than people in the West do. But I think that's because anything quantum is more natural to the Chinese mind, because quantum physics itself is so similar to ancient Chinese philosophy. And so the Chinese find it easy to think like this. whereas the entire Western mind is very one truth, one way, very certain, focused tightly, logical, and this is not very quantum. The company that most impresses me is here in China, and it is Haier. And the reason that Haier impresses me so much is that not only does its CEO Zhang Rumin act like a quantum leader and think like a quantum leader, but he has actually transformed the structures of his company to make Haier itself a quantum organization. And that is revolutionary, very radical. Many small startups, especially in Silicon Valley, start out being quite quantum because they're experimenting, they're still trying to find their way, they're taking lots of risks, they're dealing with uncertainty, they're playing with possibilities. The trouble is that when companies get large, they tend to get bureaucratic, rule-bound, afraid of risk, wanting stability. The people get treated just like parts of a machine. What's exciting about Haier is that it is a huge global company, and it has managed to have a quantum structure. And because they have done that, I think that Haier can be an example to people from other companies who say to someone like me, oh, it's a nice idea, but it would never work. Haier has made it work. I think there is a lot of similarity between what makes a great footballer or a great basketball player, a really great one, and what makes a great quantum leader. It's that sense of really being centered in yourself, knowing what you're good at and bad at, and acting from your strengths, and being poised at the edge of chaos, being spontaneous, so you can move like this, just like this. There is even the manager of the Chicago Bulls actually wrote a book called Sacred Hoops about kind of, he didn't call it quantum because he hadn't read any quantum physics, but he talked about basketball as a kind of sacred dance, you know, where you are very sensitive to the place of the other players and to where the hoop is, and developing a kind of spontaneous, unconscious awareness of what's going on. So I think there's a great analogy between sport, you know, excellent sports and excellent leadership. I think the internet enables the quantum age, because the quantum age, the main thing about quantum physics is to tell us that everything is entangled, everything is connected to everything else. And that's what the internet does for the world. It connects everything. Nobody is living a separate life anymore. That's what globalization is all about. They want to live in their own little island. But in the age of the internet, in the quantum age, you have to celebrate that everything is connected and that everything is borderless. But quantum physics tells us this is true about reality. This is why we need a new kind of thinking today, because we live in an age of chaos, an age of uncertainty, an age of unpredictability. And my work on quantum leadership and quantum management is say, don't be afraid of that. We can use it. That when things are uncertain and a little bit crazy, a little bit messy, that's when they become creative. That's when all things become possible. So it's not frightening, it's exciting. I think that it is a choice between clinging to a past which gets us nowhere and actually destroys us, or moving into the future with enthusiasm. The future is quantum. The past is Newtonian. China seems to be grabbing the future with enthusiasm and wanting to move into it with so much energy. And this is a real difference I'm noticing between East and West. You have today to see yourself in the wider context of the universe, not just in your own village or your own country even, or not even now just the Earth. We are children of the universe, of all of it. And that gives us a much broader way to understand things and a richer pool of ideas, imagination. Again, in quantum physics, when you bring two things together, 1 plus 1 equals 3. By bringing two things together, quantum physics teaches us we have more than just the combination of the two things. So if we bring East and West together, we will create something more than either of these cultures. It will be a new kind of culture, and that's what I call the quantum culture. Well, there are a lot of the top universities in the West now offering double degrees. Like at Oxford University, you can study philosophy and mathematics, or philosophy and physics, or philosophy and economics. But the thing is, the student shouldn't be restricted to just what he is studying for his formal course. Read widely. Sit in on some courses that you're not taking, just to learn what they're teaching you. Open your mind to everything. Because again, the principle in quantum physics is that relationship builds reality. The more things that are different that you can relate, the greater your mind will be. The world is a system. The reason we have many of these problems, particularly the climate problem, is that we haven't understood with our Newtonian thinking that things are a system. Everything is related to everything. My company can't just do what it wants to, thinking, never mind the rest of the world, never mind the community, because my company is part of a system that includes my workers, my customers, the citizens in my community, future generations, the earth, the planet, the environment. Everything is connected to everything. Everything is part of an interacting system. So the only way we are going to deal with these horrible problems that face us is to adopt a systems view, without question. Constant update, constant improvement, constant learning. And it also is stimulating and interesting. You never get bored. Every day is a new day. Every me is a